What uber athletic pass catching tight end is about to climb up FFPC draft boards? Which free agent needs to start going higher in the Big Gorilla ASAP? And which Bears running back are you planting your flag on in 2026? Plus, the 19-time FFPC League champ Ryan Erickson joins us to talk about George Kittle, Cleveland pass catchers, and so much more. We've got a great show for you. Ferrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob, and greetings to you, all you Balkaholics and Ferrelliacs. Welcome into the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com, myffpc.com. You may know me from the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, the FFPC, the Fantasy Football Players Championship, FFPC Insider Access, HSFF Extra Reps, and of course the HSFF Hour, which you're watching right now. My name is Eric Balkman. Connect with me on X at Eric Balkman. You can also connect with Ferrell Elliott at KFFSC.com, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football. He is joining us tonight, as he always does, as the co-host of the show. Hey, coming up on tonight's show, we're going to go hard on an NFC North quarterback that FFPC players, I think, are sleeping on. A running back coming off an injury that is shooting up FFPC Big Gorilla boards. And then the FFPC League champ, Ryan Erickson, who has won 19 league titles so far in his career, hangs out to break down his draft so far this season, the Commanders' backfield situation, and so much more. If you want to connect with us, by the way, Adam Hahn is just he's on it tonight. I'm going to throw up his comment here right on the board. I said we're going to be talking about an NFC North quarterback that FFPC players are sleeping on. He says it's Goff. I'm just going to say it right now. Adam Hahn might be right. He also might be wrong, but he's probably right. Anyway, check us out on X at HSFF at Eric Balkman. Check out Ferrell's Kentucky Fantasy Football Championship at KFFSC.com. Post on our Facebook page at facebook.com/HSFF. Email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. You can also send those questions into us on X, Facebook, Gmail, whatever you want to do. We'll try to get to them in the fantasy feedback segment coming up later on in the show. If we don't get to that, we'll get to it on Extra Reps on Friday night. I'll tell you who our special guest is for that as well. Thanks to our audio engineer and my best friend Bryce and our producer and mutual friend Rob. I want to remind everybody what's going on with the FFPC right now. There are a ton of ways that you can compete, whether you want to use this advice tonight or stuff that you already have in your brain, what have you. The Big Gorilla is going on right now. The 7 Bananas promotion. If you are randomly selected for multiple 7 picks in a row, you're going to win free FFPC teams. They escalate the more times you get the 7 pick consecutive times in a row. We got midweek mayhem going on right now. We're going to draw for 3 FFPC teams, Big Gorilla teams on Friday, for people who have drafted both slow and live or either one. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week. We'll announce it on Friday who is winning those free FFPC Big Gorilla teams. All you need to do is draft the Big Gorilla team this week. The Baby Gorilla is also off and running, $125 to enter. Still a $100,000 grand prize. It is the same exact format as the Big Gorilla. So if you want to play high stakes fantasy football, you've never done it before, this is the perfect entry point for you at $125 for the Baby Gorilla. We upped the grand prize in the FFPC Best Ball Tournament to $400K this year. It was just $300,000 last year. Now it's $400K. The runner-up is still getting $100,000, and it's just $125 to enter. FFPC Best Ball Season is going on right now, so check that out. myffpc.com. If you want to super flex it, you can do that as well. $35 to enter, $100,000 grand prize there too. We have Empire Leagues and Dynasty Empire Leagues starting up right now. Don't forget those Empire Leagues. If you are able to win the league 2 years in a row, you're going to get that secondary jackpot in those Empire Leagues with FFPC. Check that out, myffpc.com. Chop Leagues don't finish as the lowest scoring team in your league on any given week, and you will win your Chop League. You can turn that into cash. FFPC Main Event entries, FFPC Big Gorilla entries, and something we introduced last week, FFPC Player One, where you are drafting against 11 smart computer teams. If you can outfox the machine, as it were, you're going to win cash or main event prizes, Big Gorilla prizes there as well with Player One with the FFPC. I think that is everything. I don't think I've skipped anything over there. MyFFPC.com is where to go. And of course, KFFSC.com is where to go to check out the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship. I don't know, man. I just feel like the last 5 years, maybe more, I have gone up and up and up playing in Kentucky, and it's just increased my fun every year. Compete against me, compete against a lot of the people you hear from the show at KFFSC.com. The man responsible is Ferrell Elliott, and he joins us right now. Ferrell Elliott, welcome into the program. Happy Wednesday to you, sir.
Balky, what nice words. Yeah, and right back at you, because everyone that's involved, they want to say, can I play against Balky? I mean, is Balky coming? Is Balky going to be there then? And, you know, your first appearance at Super Sunday this year absolutely stole the show. You know, people were just, I mean, look, when Balky's there, it's great. And that's just the way it is. Now, Adam Hans making a question there. And, Adam, it's because we want you to come to Kentucky and make some friends. We want you to get out and make some friends and come be with us. That's why you can't do that in Colorado.
Well, he's asking, like, just a 2-point thing here to clarify.
Yeah.
So he's asking why he can't participate in FFPC Player One in Colorado. There are certain states that have tougher restrictions. There's nothing we can do about that.
Yeah, nothing you can do about it. You can't fight City Hall. Did you ever hear that?
You can't fight City Hall. No.
Can't do it.
But I will say this. If you want to compete, Adam, and have a good time and have a great weekend, you have 3 options to do so with the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Champ. Really 4 options, right? Because, Ferrell, we got Ashland, Kentucky.
Yep.
For week 1 of the KFFSC.
Yes, we do.
We have Northern Kentucky.
Yes,
week
we do.
2, live drafting for the KFFSC.
Mm-hmm.
We have Southern Indiana for week 3 for drafting for the KFFSC. And then, you know what we have after that? We have Planet Hollywood live in Las Vegas. Adam, your first drink is on me if you can make it out to any of those. Because I'd love to pick your brain. I'd love to have you on the show as well. But that's basically the skinny that we have for Player One. Ferrell, how's your week been going so far, man?
It's Wednesday, man. I woke up Monday morning and I haven't been asleep yet. It's been that kind of week. It's been a wild one. I am, we're staring down the fact that Balky, we're just, less than 60 days away from Kentucky's live event, less than 75 away from Planet Hollywood. There's a lot of work still to be done. And the best thing about my week is to come here and talk fantasy football with you and all the guests in the comments. And we've got one of the Erickson family coming on tonight. That's part of your generational family tree. So this is going to be good. This is good stuff.
I don't know if he's related to Don Erickson as we bring in the 19-time champ, Ryan Erickson, coming up in a few minutes here. He might be, but I'm excited to talk to him about how his fantasy football season has been going with the Big Gorilla so far and so on and so forth. Now, Ferrell, before we get to that, I have to bring up some other stuff here with you tonight.
What you got?
What better way to kick things off tonight in regards to everything that's going on in fantasy football, both with the FFPC, with the KFFSC. There's a lot going on with the NFL, and I think we lead off with Cameron Wolf's report from the NFL Network, from ESPN.com. He's reported that Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be used on vertical routes this upcoming season. Cameron Wolf posted in his story to ESPN.com, that's where Jaguars coaches believe he can take the next step. He has shown better chemistry in OTAs and minicamp with Trevor Lawrence this offseason after 2024 season where Brian Thomas's stats were heavily inflated by Mac Jones, and then 2025 where there were no inflated stats for Brian Thomas because his stats were awful in 2025. But when we consider what Thomas can do downfield, I think it's interesting because he averaged 14.3 air yards per target. He led the Jaguars in air yards share when he was healthy in 2025. Now in 2026, and this is my concern here, Ferrell, and I'll bring this up in a second. Talk about the variance week to week. If he is simply a downfield threat, if he's running wind sprints, if he is going to become the new Devery Henderson, if he's going to become the new Marquez Valdes-Scantling, this is scary here. Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers are much more consistent players, but they do not have the upside of Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah. Last year, Trevor Lawrence ranked 19th out of 33 qualifying quarterbacks in downfield accuracy. That was right in line with Cam Ward. Ferrell, I bring this up because I think we've spent the last couple of months talking about how we didn't like Brian Thomas and how we were down on Brian Thomas. And now I feel like, and I'm included in this, I'm warming up to Brian Thomas Jr. I'm warming up to him in best ball. Managed leagues is a little bit different because of the weekly variance, and you just don't know when he is going to go off or when it's going to be like a 3 for 12 week or something like that. But Brian Thomas, if we look at the FFPC Big Gorilla ADP over the last 5 weeks, where do we get this from? Fantasy Mojo, fantasymojo.com, at Fantasy Mojo on X. Darren Armani runs this website. Anytime we cite ADP data on this show, it's due to fantasymojo.com. If you're playing in the FFPC, highly recommend you get a subscription to fantasymojo.com to make you a better FFPC player. Ferrell, right now, Brian Thomas is, in fact, the number one wide receiver drafted from the Jaguars. Wide receiver 31 at the 606. He has surpassed Parker Washington. He long surpassed Jacoby Myers. And I'm wondering if, like, we are borderline where in managed leagues like the Big Gorilla, where we're saying, like, okay, maybe mid-sixth I can do Brian Thomas. But if he gets much higher than that, I think Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers become the better bets. Your thoughts on Brian Thomas in managed leagues where you have to decide whether or not to start him week in and week out based off this Cameron Wolf report that he's going to be a downfield threat this year?
You know, if we took a poll of our listeners and our guests, Balky, that have come on the show, and in the comment room, we're in a situation where I would lose that bet that who's being drafted sooner, Brian Thomas Jr. or Parker Washington. Our people were trying to push Parker Washington into that position as the number one drafted Jacksonville wide receiver. Now, what is missing from this is I don't hear Mr. Cameron using the word exclusively.
No.
You know, and so I think as much to do about nothing. I believe this player will run a complete route tree, and he would be excessively successful if he can free himself up deep. He will be also successful for the other two receivers. I really think the three receivers on the Jacksonville Jaguars are all bargains to draft.
I like the idea of a team name for me this year.
What is?
Excessively successful.
Excessively
successful.
Everybody knows that about you, Balky.
No, it's just it's kind of an ironic thing. That's why we do it. But I love.
Well, it's like your dynasty team that has the wow factor. By the way, the big Valentine's dynasty has started, and you are on the clock with the number one pick. And you know, everybody probably wants to know who you're going to take, but nevertheless, that team has a wow factor in its name as well. So,
I will bring up this right now, Ferrell. As long as we got the Jacksonville, you know, there are several repetitive tropes on this show this season. One of them has been the Jacksonville Jaguars backfield. Another has been the Jacksonville Jaguars pass catchers, and another one has been Kyle Pitts. And I was trying to avoid bringing up Kyle Pitts again on this show, but the NFL said, no, Falky, you are bringing up Kyle Pitts on the HSFF Hour this week. Why? Because Adam Schefter reported that Kyle Pitts and the Falcons have agreed to a 3-year, $54 million extension, $36 million in guaranteed. Matt Ryan, the former NFL MVP, the former all-world quarterback for Atlanta, is now the current president of football with Atlanta. And apparently, after he took over, it was not. I'm speaking speculatively here, but it didn't seem like it was a priority to get Kyle Pitts inked to this extension rather than let him play on the franchise tag this year. But apparently they like it. They like what they saw, and they inked him to this $54 million extension. Pitts should be the number 2 pass catcher in Atlanta, dare I say, over Bijan Robinson and behind Drake London this year. I had the opportunity to draft him in the KFFSC Kenny Stabler division of the KFFSC Best Ball Tournament. I passed on him, and I can't remember who I took instead, but he did not come back to me. He's off the board. Shout out to whoever took Kyle Pitts on me in this. But you look at Pitts, he is right below $19.1 million a year, which is what George Kittle's making. But he's making I shouldn't say this. He's also making just below what Trey McBride is making in Arizona, which is $19 million a year. He is one of the highest paid tight ends in the NFL now. And Ferrell, if we look at the FFPC Big Gorilla for the last 5 days, I can tell you that Kyle Pitts, according to FFPC drafters, is being selected as tight end 6 at the 602 behind Harold Fannin and just in front of Tucker Kraft. Does this contract that he has signed with Atlanta shift the value on Kyle Pitts and Big Gorilla drafts this year for you? Or was this kind of something we should have been expecting all along, and how FFPC players have been handling Kyle Pitts? Is this something that they expected all along?
I don't think we should. There's a number of players that are in line for extensions that we're coming up on, some of which are making progress, some of which aren't. Baker Mayfield is one that is not, but eventually he will. I think in honor of in our 2027 show, we should, in coexistence with Tight End University in Nashville, which is where they all are this week anyway. I think we should have a show during Tight End University week next year where all we talk about is tight ends. It's just tight ends. It's an entire tight end show, and because it's an important thing. And do I believe he's topped out in receptions? He's getting close. Do I believe he's topped out in touchdowns? No. Adam continues to fill in that he's his tight end total has increased every year, and I think it will, no matter who is at quarterback in Atlanta. And I talked with someone today that said third string quarterback. Simeon will start half the games in Atlanta. So that's the only thing that would give me hesitancy at this point in time about Kyle Pitts.
You know, I'm at this point, Ferrell, I'm looking for reasons not to draft Kyle Pitts. And
they're hard to find, Balky.
Well, that's the thing is once you start looking for reasons not to draft a player, I think you have to flip it and say, okay, why do I not want to draft this player? This is not the same thing as what Ben Gretsch said about Christian McCaffrey last year. I think it was, but it's similar. Pitts does not have the injury concerns that McCaffrey did, but Gretsch made the point, and I know people are getting sick of me saying this. We need to stop thinking about in fantasy football, what happens if this player gets hurt? We need to start thinking about what happens if this player doesn't get hurt. And to quantify it for Kyle Pitts, we have to say, well, what happens if Pitts is a bust this year and he's going as the tight end 6 at the 602 in the Big Gorilla? We have to start thinking about, if we draft him, well, what happens if he's not a bust at the 602? What happens if he delivers at that tight end 6? What happens if he outperforms Harold Fannin, Tyler Warren? I don't know if he outperforms Colston Loveland, but I can see the range of outcomes where that would happen. But certainly he could end up as the tight end 4, which, by the way, FFPC players are soaking a 308 pick into the tight end 4 this year.
And it's no reason to that's why in the FFPC, the rules allow you to draft more than one tight end. So there's no reason to be concerned.
Yeah, no,
if you have concerns to have more tight ends.
There's a zillion different ways to build your teams in the FFPC. Is a zillion different ways to build your teams in the Big Gorilla. We saw it Friday when Ferrell, when we were covering the FFPC Big Gorilla Draft live at 10 p.m. This past Friday night, which was a lot of fun. And a guy who has done a ton of Big Gorillas is going to join us right now, ladies and gentlemen. Our guest tonight has 19 league titles to his name in his FFPC career. However, he is not resting on the laurels of those 19 league championships. He is looking forward to another league title in the FFPC, probably several FFPC league titles, but the one thing he's solely focused on, winning $1 million in the FFPC Big Gorilla, something that he has been spending a lot of time doing so far this season. Please welcome onto the show our guest tonight, the 19-time FFPC League champion, Mr. Ryan Erickson. Ryan, welcome in, man. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
We are excited. We are excited to have you. It is June 24th. You've been drafting for quite a while. The first thing I have to ask you here tonight, and Ryan, I think I alluded to this on last week's show. I feel like when you draft in February, when you draft in April, when you draft in June, it always seems like your draft it's totally different, right? You've been drafting for a while. Does it feel like your Big Gorilla drafts have taken on sort of like a different type of animal of their own, right? Like when you think about where you were drafting earlier and earlier to where they're at now. I mean, ADPs change and the whole complexity of the drafts change. It's kind of a new animal every time you sit back and start drafting, right?
Yeah, it really is. And I think back to when I started drafting this year back in February, I think it was late February. And back, at that point, you don't even know where the rookies are going to be. Yeah. And you're just taking shots based upon the talent and how good you think they're going to transition into the NFL. And now we obviously we know where they are, and we also now know bye weeks, and we know schedule, so we can figure out who's got that juicy schedule when the playoffs and the nationals roll around when you're trying to win that $1 million.
That's why I love drafting in February so much, guys. I don't have to do all that work. I just figured it out. Wow, no wonder. That's a great thing. Ryan, when we get together at Super Sunday and draft, that's our live draft on Super Sunday, and we get all those commentaries. I don't know anything. I don't know it. Yeah, you know something. I think it's a lot of fun to draft then. I really, really do. It's cool stuff.
Well, and Ferrell's right, and Ryan, you know this because you draft early, obviously. Before we get into the majority of the fantasy football portion of the interview tonight, I want you to let everybody know as much as you want to let everybody know. What are you doing for a living when you are not winning all these FFPC leagues and drafting in all these Big Gorilla drafts?
I'm actually the director of AV and production services at the University of Miami Law School. So. I handle all of the tech in the classrooms and things of that nature for the law school there.
So you were doing tech for the law school in Coral Gables, right? Am I making that up?
Yes.
This is an interesting combination that I think we've ever had. We've had people that are doing part of what you do, but you're doing everything there, man. This has got to keep you busy, and more importantly, it's got to be fun going to work every day.
It can be. It can also be.
Not if you have a professor and the tech is not working.
Correct.
The tech is not working. You don't. You're going to encounter John Hausman type professor coming to see you. All right, man. You're in Miami. We got it. There's so much about going on with Miami that we could talk about. I'm gonna start though in Kansas City. Last year I was shocked when we were at Planet Hollywood of the lack of love for Travis Kelce. It's some guys that I really, really admire as fantasy football players were trying to tell me that Kelce was, what's that word, Balky? That word that I hate? Washed.
Upside? Oh, he's washed.
He's washed.
People have been saying Kelsey's been washed for years.
He's washed.
And I feel bad bringing it up on this show, but go ahead, Ferrell.
Well, last year, if you take all the receivers, anyone who caught a pass, he was 24th amongst them. And he was in the top echelon of the tight ends. And that's an off year for him. 76 catches, 5 touchdowns. There was a lot of things I didn't like about him. The way he ran routes in the red zone and then the offensive scheme. There's just a lot of things I didn't necessarily like. And he's not calling plays. He's just running the routes that are designed for him. I think Kelsey has a bounce back year. I think, we're dealing with a team here that I have to remind people sometimes the Chiefs were a losing record. You have to remind people the Bengals a losing record, Cowboys, Ravens, all losing records last year, all with players that we desire to draft and love drafting. So Chiefs bounce back, Kelsey bounce back. That's my thought. What are your thoughts?
And Ryan, just real quick, and Ferrell did an excellent job setting up that question. But I will just say this. For anybody who is not familiar, and I know you are, if you look at what Travis Kelce did last year, 76 catches, 851 yards, and 5 touchdowns, right? So it's not like he was terrible last year from an FFPC standpoint. But I don't know, maybe Ryan, you could speak to this. We think of Travis Kelce over the course of his career, and it's like tight end one. You think about the 110 catch season he had in 2002, the 1,400 yard season he had in 2020, the 12 touchdown season he had in 2022. So there's a baseline of stats that we have associated with Travis Kelce. And by the way, I'm leading the witness here, Ferrell. I'm just going to say this. 76 for 851 and 5 touchdowns last year. That's not a bad season. And when we think if like he has, as Ferrell is saying, Ryan, a bounce back season, if he bounces back to like 90 catches and he flirts with 1,000 yards and maybe 7 or 8 touchdowns, ooh, baby, that could be really big this year. Your thoughts on Kelce in 2026 and what FFPC owners and the three of us should be expecting from him on this Chiefs offense this year?
I'm a big fan of Kelce this year. He's normally been taken, back in his heyday, he was taken well before I was ready to take a tight end, which is fair. But I think we need to separate, the Kelce from before from the Kelce now, and have our expectations be limited to what he's going to be now. And if we look at what he did last year, that's pretty much the low end Kelce, right? I believe that with Eric Bieniemy coming back as the offensive coordinator, they're going to get him the ball more in the red zone like they used to. That, Ferrell was alluding to some of the play calling not being the best last year. And you could really notice it in the red zone. They used to go out of their way to get Kelce the ball in the red zone, and it worked. And once Bieniemy left, his touchdowns the last 3 years are 5, 3, and 5. Before that, he was double-digit touchdown guy almost every year. So if he gets a bounce back just in the touchdowns to 8 to 10, and you maintain the 75 catches, you're well over 200 points again out of a tight end that you drafted in the 8th round. I'll take it every day.
Balky, you got Darren's.
Absolutely, I do. And I'll tell you this right now. We had started out the year with Kelce going well after like a starting tight end, right? But since then, and after Ryan Erickson has issued his flag planting here on Travis Kelce tonight, maybe it goes up even higher. But Kelce has moved ahead of Goddard. He has moved ahead of Mark Andrews. He has moved ahead of high-stakes darling Dalton Kincaid. Ferrell is being drafted as tight end 11 at the 7-11 over the last 5 days, according to Fantasy Mojo, in the FFPC Big Gorilla. You're looking at him approaching. He's about a half round behind George Kittle. He's about a half round behind Isaiah Likely right now. I think those are the next two guys if you were to surpass them. And Ryan, you can speak to this. Players of Travis Kelce's ilk and his resume and his age and everything, this is a player that usually doesn't ascend as we get closer to the live drafts at Planet Hollywood in September. This is a player that normally stays the same or falls. And he's already moved ahead, like I said, of Kincaid, ahead of Andrews, ahead of Goddard right now. This is a player that I think that the sharps out there are going to be like, you know what? Everybody's down on Kelce because he's old. He's ready for the next step of his life. There's other players out there that I'd rather have as a potential league winner with Kelce. But then you look at him at the 7-11 or maybe the early 8th round, and it's like, you know what? I'll load up on running backs and receivers and get Kelce here in the 8th, and I'll be good at tight end. Ryan, that's probably not the worst strategy to adhere to this season.
Yeah, I mean, and also, one of the things with when he was getting drafted later early on, there were also some concerns about, is he coming back?
No.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some concerns, is Kansas City going to bring in another tight end?
Mm-hmm.
And none of that happened. So
there were some people that were living in Pitts comes to Kansas City fantasy land. I remember reading that. That was really good. I think, guys, I think he's settled. And once again, you are the poster child, Mr. Erickson, for drafting early. So you could get Kelce. You get a real bargain in Kelce, but I think he's kind of settled where he is. And then Balky, when we get to Planet Hollywood to get a value on Kelce, you've got to get 11 guys that don't like him as much as we do, and I don't think that's real easy. So I don't know.
But Ferrell, I'm telling you this: it might be the easiest year to draft.
Oh, it will be. It will be.
In quite some time. This might be.
Well, I think you just walk up and just disinformation. You just walk up to people and say, by the way, Kelce's through. He didn't even want to play.
I don't understand why Isaiah Likely is going ahead of him, though. I will.
Okay.
I just absolutely can't get that one.
All right. So let me weigh in on this, Ryan, because I've been drafting a lot of Likely this year. And I'll just say, as far as the whole conversation.
True confessions, Ryan. Here it is.
Well, I'll weigh in on the Likely versus Kelce conversation.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many people, myself included, that are looking for the next biggest thing. And I think a lot of people have become intoxicated with Likely following his head coach from Baltimore to New York. A situation where we don't know what Malik Neighbors is going to do, at least in the early part of the season, or maybe the whole season. And that's the part of the reason that I've found it so fun to draft Isaiah Likely. He's going in at the 703 in the FFPC. I've been drafting him in Kentucky. Steve Yergalos from the Fantasy Sopranos. He and I have been doing like this one-upmanship of like, okay, where you're going to take Likely here, I'm going to take Likely here, and then he takes Likely here. So it's one of those things where I think that, and by the way, and I'll just use this as an example too. I had the opportunity in a KFFSC draft today to draft Cortland Sutton as my number 4 receiver. This is best ball, okay? And I chose not to. I chose to draft Chris Godwin, and maybe that was I overdrafted Godwin or whatever. But I feel like Godwin, in the situation he's in Tampa this year, he's on the up. He's going he's on the come up, right? And Sutton, I don't think he's like on the downslope is probably a bad way to say it. But with Waddle there, and I know the Broncos threw a lot last year, I was just kind of like, you know what? I feel like I'm drafting Sutton more at his ceiling, and I think I'm drafting Chris Godwin closer to his floor. So that's why I took Godwin there over Sutton. And I think to apply it back to the Likely versus Kelce, I think Likely is a much more fun click, Ryan. I think he's much more fun to draft here in the 7th round as opposed to Travis Kelce, who is going at the end of the 7th round and who he's been ascending, where we have seen, peak Travis Kelce, and we know we're not getting that again. So, Ryan, I think the whole thing I come back to on this is maybe this is the wrong decision for fantasy owners, but for people who want to draft for fun, it's more fun to draft Likely than Kelce this year. Whether that's more lucrative or financially beneficial, we'll see, right? But I think that is what you asked me why Likely is going above Kelce. I think that's why. And it's just a fun aspect. I don't know. You can weigh in on that, Ryan.
I would just say beware Theo Johnson.
It's a great point.
Simply because I know Jackson Dart really did like him in the red zone last year. And so I don't know. It's not a slam dunk to me that likely is going to be like a go-to number one tight end. I have a feeling he's going to split time.
You know, to paraphrase Miss Lautner, Balky, drafters just want to have fun.
Which is true. Yeah, Cindy Lauper way ahead.
That's why Likely's going. It's fun.
I'm gonna get to Brandon Ayuk with you in a second, Ryan. But I just want to kind of put a bow on this here in regards to tight end. Likely versus Kelsey. Is this a situation, or is this a decision you've been faced with, or have you been drafting tight ends in the Big Gorilla earlier, or focusing on tight ends after this decision?
I'm usually in that range to get my tight end. I'm in the Kittle, Kelsey, Kraft, all the Ks, Kincaid, all the K tight ends. They're right in there. I end up with one of those.
We won't give the triple K moniker.
No, there's four. There's four.
Okay, perfect. So the KK tonight, just so everybody's clear. Yep. We're not doing anything like that. Okay, Ryan, Brandon Ayuk, God bless him. Ferrell, isn't that what they say in the South? God bless his heart, or bless his heart.
Yeah, it's usually not a compliment.
It's not a compliment, which I found out.
Bless your heart, Bob.
Yeah, bless Brandon Ayuk's heart. But he's been posting on Instagram, trying, saying everything to try to get to the Commanders this year. Ryan, if you could look into the Erickson crystal ball, as I always say on this show, what's going to happen with Brandon Ayuk this year? How do you handle a player like him, who has been a Pro Bowler, who has had some pretty good seasons in San Francisco, and yet we know he's probably not going to be playing for the Niners this year, and FFPC players in the Big Gorilla are drafting him as wide receiver 66 at the 1602. What do we do with him in drafts?
So my position on this has actually changed since February. Back in February, I was confident he was going to get let go or traded, and he was going to end up in Washington, and he was going to be Jane Daniels' number one guy. He loves him, whatever. The longer it's taking, the more I'm starting to question it, and the more I'm out on him at this point, because I won't take him when he's being drafted. I feel like there's other people at that point that at least I know what their situation is, and I don't have to worry about it. At this point, I feel like Ayuk's going to have to show up to camp and force San Francisco to do something with him. Otherwise, they're just going to sit there with him, and he's no good anyway.
That's the truth.
Ferrell, I'm going to bring this up to you just real quick. In regards to Ayuk, I just said wide receiver 66 at the 1602. Some of the other players that are going around him and players that would draft over Ayuk at this point. Tank Dell, yeah, I know the injury, but the upside with Dell, and he's not having a fight with his current organization about, whether he's going to be playing or not. DeJon Stribling, who was selected as the 33rd overall player in the NFL draft this year. Trey Tucker, Ferrell, who could be the number one wide receiver for the Raiders this year. And then Omar Cooper, a first-round draft pick. A player, anybody who's drafting against me in the KFFSC knows I've been drafting a lot of Jalen Naylor with the Vegas Raiders this year. They're all going around that same area with Ayuk. Ferrell, for a guy who has not played since 2024, it's really difficult for me to wrap my head around picking Ayuk, even in the 16th round, a player that has not played in more than a calendar year in the NFL, as opposed to some of these other guys where I can tell myself a story where these guys could actually help me out both in best ball and managed leagues.
I don't think you have to sell Ryan or myself on this one, Balky. Availability, greatest ability. And I'm a big culture guy in the NFL, and I think if you're going to wreck a locker room in one place, you're likely to wreck it somewhere else. It's not a good move. So I don't see success for this player like we're used to, and I would rather move on. And, some of the players there that you mentioned, have significant ways that they could contribute.
Adam Hahn bringing up, too. We don't even know if Ayuk is still good. We don't. I mean, he might be. George Kittle was talking about this in an interview the other day about, how he'd show up to practice and Ayuk would already be out there. and he'd be running 22 miles an hour and still cut on a dime. And Kittle's like, yeah, so if he can still do that, he's awesome. But
he was not a bad teammate every day. You know, you can't be, but he was not it's just something's not right. And,
and this is me coming from the standpoint, I've never been a professional athlete, Ferrell. But I've been in professional.
You are a professional broadcaster.
No, I'm just talking about being in a professional where I work with other people. Yes. I'm not at my best every single day. Like, so I don't know.
Really?
No, I absolutely not. And I know that, that's and like, I hate to compare our jobs with the jobs of being professional athletes. Mm-hmm. But I always wonder how that is, like, where I'm not, what happens when I don't sleep well and I wake up late and I'm not giving it my 110%, at my job, who cares? Right. But at a job where you are trying to compete for a world championship, how does that play to your teammates? I don't know. That's another thing that I always like to bring up as well. Anyway, that aside, the point, we're running out of time here, and there's so much more we have.
Running out of time. Oh, good Lord, the clock is on speed. Hey, I want to talk about the Commanders' backfield.
Yes, thank you.
My buddy Fenton is drafting in one of the KFFSC leagues with Balky, and he asked me today what I thought of Krosky Merritt. And I said, well, that's a fantastic draft pick. You mean he's still available? I think this guy is a terrific value, which I would rather hear if you agree with me than tell you why, Mr. Erickson. But do you have a favorite commander in that backfield? I don't think it's a contest. All the other guys I don't think concede any carries from this player. And I will say that 4.6 yards per carry last year, I like it.
I'm actually not a fan.
Why?
I think the Commanders are actually trying to tell us that they're not a fan either. Mm-hmm. They brought in Rashad White. Mm-hmm. They brought in Ford. Mm-hmm. And they drafted Kaytron Allen, who a lot of people thought was one of the top 5 running backs in the draft. Mm-hmm. So you don't bring in that many running backs if you feel secure about your number one. So
well, you want to have 5 guys on the roster through the year. They didn't have them. They didn't have them. There's very few holdovers there. It's a whole new room. I understand what you're saying.
It is. Yeah. But let's also remember Rashad White. Where did he go to school?
I don't even. Central
Arizona
Florida
State.
Oh, Arizona State. That's right. Yeah,
Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's once again a connection. I think at this point, if you asked me a month ago, I would have told you Kaytron Allen, because there's always a couple rookies that flash, and he seems to have the best combination of opportunity and talent, and out of all the late round guys. But now as we're moving along, I'm starting to lean towards Rashad White.
Okay, Ryan, don't say anything else because I don't want to poison your brain with anything, but I have to ask. There are people, high stakes players out there on Twitter and Reddit and what have you, that have been, we're trying to answer the question, and we do this every year, and it's a silly exercise, but I guess once in a while it does pay off. So this year, the question, Ryan, who is this year's Javonte Williams, right? And by and large, the answer I have been seeing to that question, more so than any other running back, even if there is a this year's Javonte Williams, has been Rashad White. Can you get on board with Rashad White being the 2026 version of Javonte Williams in our nation's capital?
No. No.
Yeah, I love it. So
I love what you're dealing here, Ryan, because that means, Balky, that means I've got another running back that I think I could get later than he deserves. Well, I got to start drafting earlier. This won't be that way at Planet Hollywood.
So the other thing, Ryan, too, and I'll bring this up, and you can, I think you're going to agree with me on this. So we talked about all the action that the Commanders have had in the backfield. And by the way, I think that, and I might be making this up in my head, that they still might be connected with guys like Najee Harris or whatever, even though they have Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Rashad White, Jerome Ford, right? And then somebody named Robert Henry Jr., who mentioned Katron Allen, the draft pick, but Robert Henry Jr., who's a rookie. They keep on bringing up all these different running backs, and the coaching staff is talking them up. And listen, I get the whole, like, you want to have exposure to this backfield, and I'm fine with, like, you know, sussing it out, and I'll take Katron Allen here, or I'll take JCM here, or whatever. But I guess I can't get on board with, like, going heavy on any of these, but I still kind of want a piece of this in my drafts. Is that how you've been handling it so far, Ryan?
Yeah, and that's why I've been ending up with Katron Allen when I have gotten a piece of it. It's because I don't want any part of this backfield in my starting lineup when the year starts.
Mm-hmm.
I want to let things play out. We'll see who's gonna get the ball. I think Rashad White, like Adam was saying in the chat, I think he's a receiver. And so in PPR leagues, he's going to have some value no matter what. Mm-hmm. So that's why at this point, I'm kind of leaning towards, if you're forcing me to draft one, I'll take White, because I feel confident he's going to have that role. The other guys are not receivers to his caliber. So I feel like he's entrenched into a specific role, whereas everyone else, they're going to be vying for those carries, those red zone touches. And you know what? I don't want to touch it right now. Yeah. I've got things I feel better about in other places.
Okay, that's fair enough.
The other thing that, just to kind of put a bow on this too, Jaden Daniels is a quarterback with legs, and that doesn't always mean great things for receiving running backs too. So when Jaden Daniels is forced out of the pocket, and David Blau, the new OC, has already said he wants to get him on bootlegs and what have you, and getting him out of the pocket, might be easier for Daniels just to rush for 7 yards rather than potentially throw to a running back for 8 yards. So I'll put that out there right now.
And that's why that experience with him at Arizona State, I think, actually helps, because he has a little bit of confidence in Rashad White already and what he can bring to the table, and they have that chemistry. So
it's so weird to think about, but like Adam Levitan from Established Around talks about this all the time, the whole shower theorem, right? If you showered with a guy, you probably,
no, that's not a good. That's
no,
not
it is.
Good.
Like
no.
you have listen, like you have this connection with this guy. Like you've done this in college. Now you're doing this in the pros. There's something he said for the shower.
I don't think they lived in a bunkhouse, though, Bucky. I don't think they were showering.
I don't know. I don't know what they did at Arizona State. I've never been there.
There's a locker room. They got private showers out there now. You know.
I will say this. One of my buddies who was, and I won't say his name because maybe he would care. Maybe he probably wouldn't, but I'll just, because I don't know. He was a heavily recruited Division I basketball player 20 years ago. And he said he was recruited by the University of Arizona. And this is basketball. So Lute Olson was the head coach there. And he said he got off the plane. And I know this is not Arizona State. It's Arizona. Although Arizona State is known more as the party school in Arizona but he said he got off the plane on a recruiting visit from Arizona. And there was a guy with a hose spraying women with T-shirts, like white T-shirts, just spraying them right when he got off the plane. That was Arizona. Arizona State's the party school. I don't know what was going on there, but certainly Rashad White, Jaden Daniels, they could tell us more stories about that. Moving on, and sorry I brought this up. Team Swift, Team Monangai, Ryan, the Bears backfield. A lot of people are on the Bears offense this year. Do you feel like you are planting your flag on Swift versus Monangai this year, or are you still kind of divvying it up in your Big Gorilla drafts?
I'm Team Swift all the way. I watch the two play. I see it with my eyes. Swift is the better running back. Now, Monangai, I don't know how many times last year I was watching a Bears game, and Monangai would get the ball, and he would have the largest hole I've ever seen in my life, and no one would touch him for 10 yards. And I go, why can't they do that for Swift? But, I mean, at the end of the day, Swift was getting, it was about a 60-40 split. And I think it's gonna be the same thing again this year. And I'll stick with Swift. He's in a contract year. He's still 27. He should be fine. He should be motivated to get another deal or impress somebody at another team. Yeah. If Chicago wants to move on, that's fine. But he should be motivated, and I expect similar numbers to last year.
I think I'm going to go with you there, Balky. I think I'm going to go with Brother Ryan there. Your thoughts?
Well, here's the thing. The Mojo is saying Swift running back 25 at the 508, Monangai running back 35 at the 808. This is one of those rare occurrences where I feel like even though Swift is falling and Monangai is rising, I think I'm with you guys. I think I'd rather have Swift. And if you go 0 RB this year, or if you go, wide receiver, tight end heavy, or what have you, and you're looking for an RB2 in the 5th round or an RB1, I'd rather have Swift than Monangai at that point. Now, based on my team build, I could see me drafting Monangai in the mid 8th. If I already have a running back or 2 running backs, it kind of all depends team construction. But in a vacuum, I am with you. I think Swift is going to have the better season than Monangai, and the FFPC drafters are backing that up.
We are all in agreement. Let's stay on some running backs while we still got time. Ryan, where did you go to medical school?
I did not.
Were you trained, in physical therapy, recovery techniques, some of that type of thing? Did you have that kind of training?
I've been around people while they've had physical therapy.
We need professional training. Have you visited a Walgreens or a CVS in the last 6 months?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay, well, then you're qualified to answer this question for us. When is Charbonnet returning? With your medical background, you should be able to give us a very quick answer so we know how to handle that running back situation in Seattle.
What I can tell you is my expectation for his return.
Well, yes, and it's professional in nature because of your involvement in the industry. So please.
I would not expect him before week 8.
Wow.
But I wouldn't. I think he'll be back before week 12 is the end point for me.
Okay.
Their bye week's week 11, so I could see them holding off until after the bye week and bringing him back in week 12.
So Ryan, my co-counselor here, Ferrell Elliott, is leading you on this, and I'm going to ask you point blank. Zach Charbonnet over the last 5 days, beg your pardon, in the FFPC Big Gorilla, running back 43 at the 1108. Is that a smart draft choice now that he has creeped up nearly to the mid 11th round for a player who tore his ACL late in the NFL playoffs last year?
So he was one of my favorite picks to get in the 12th, 13th round. Now that he's getting close to pricing himself out of my range. Mm-hmm. I am comfortable taking him as my RB4 and sitting on him, half the season. When it comes time and I'm sitting there in the 10th, 11th round and I only have 2 running backs, I'm going to shy away because I can't count on him to be my bye week replacement for those 2 running backs.
Mm-hmm.
How annoying is it though to have him as a roster clogger until he comes back though? In regards to Charbonnet, Ryan, when you
long
talk
season,
but I know that he's going to be gone, right? Like I could draft somebody and tomorrow they're out for 2 months. Like that's just part of the nature of the game, right? Like you have to plan for injuries and generally, especially in like the Big Gorilla, when you have a 20-man roster, let's be honest, those last 2 spots, you can hold some injured people for a few weeks.
Yeah.
That's why I like having 20 roster slots.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. Like especially, what are people doing with their waiver claims during the season, right? They're trying to hit home runs, and you might already be sitting on a home run with Charbonnet, depending upon where you draft him, if he's in the 11th or 12th or 13th round. Speaking of home runs, Ryan, George Kittle is another player, and I selfishly bring him up a lot on my shows because I don't know where to put my finger on him as far as drafting position goes. He has moved up to tight end 10 in the Big Gorilla over the last 5 days. George Kittle is being drafted at the 705, just behind Isaiah Likely, right ahead of the aforementioned Travis Kelce. How bullish are you? This is a two-part question. How bullish are you on Kittle being ready for week one? But then the second part of that is, let's say he's ready for week one, coming off the torn Achilles. What version of George Kittle are we going to see this year for the people that are soaking currently a mid-7th round pick in the Big Gorilla into this player?
So when I've been, like I said, I generally take my tight end in that KKKK range.
Right.
So I have my fair amount of shares of Kittle. But when I do take Kittle, I make sure that I pretty much double tap tight end at that point. Just to make sure I have another guy for the beginning of the season, because I've heard the stories. Oh, it was a perfectly clean Achilles tear.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the best case you could ever have of an Achilles tear. Okay, it's still an Achilles tear, right? So, I mean, I don't know how short we can make this time frame that he's going to be out. So I think of it as 4 weeks, right? I'm hopeful that by October he'll be 90% of himself. And if you give me 90% of George Kittle in the 7th round, I'll take that.
Yeah. He's one of the best football players pound for pound you'll ever find.
Oh, just real quick, Ryan, on this. So let's say you're in a Big Gorilla draft. You utilize your mid-7th round pick on George Kittle. How do you handle the tight end position the rest of your draft? Would you go tight end right away, like in the in the 8th round or the 9th round? Would you wait on it till like the 16th or the 17th? If you decide to take the plunge on George Kittle in the 7th, what's the proper way to handle that position for the remainder of your draft as it stands here in late June already?
Well, I know I was able to do in a Big Gorilla maybe a month ago. I was able to double tap Kittle Kelce.
Oh, chef's kiss.
Exactly. Like that was my 7th and 8th round. It was Kittle Kelce. So I was like, yes, please, thank you. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I try to get a tight end in the next couple of rounds. If there's a decent value tight end, I look at it as just basically a cherry on top, because I can put him in as my tight end until Kittle's ready. When Kittle's ready, I can just move him into a flex slot and I'm good to go. If it's a tight end that I feel like is going to be around that 200-point mark, that's always what I'm looking at for rounds 8 through 12. Mm-hmm. If there's anyone that I feel can get to the 200-point mark, that's the kind of guy I want to go for. Mm-hmm. That's kind of my baseline.
The kind of guy that I want to go for at quarterback has always been Jared Goff. I believe that if you play Jared Goff when he's playing on the carpet in his home stadium, you're in good shape. And if you look at the first round of our FFPC and KFFSC drafts, you'll see some fellas that he's playing with that are going to put up some pretty good numbers. And then, if you have any doubts and you want to do some further scouting, I just go and realize who he's married to. Have you ever looked up that, Balky? The actress Kristen Harper. This guy's obviously dealing. That's all I'm saying. I mean, he can get it done for. I'm proud of Mr. Jared Goff. He's got a new offensive coordinator. Most importantly, Ryan, what does that mean for Detroit, Goff, and other players this year?
So, their coordinator came from Arizona, and I'm not sure how much of a difference it's going to make statistically for Goff. I think it's going to be a net zero, basically. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason of that is that offensive line is my worry for Detroit. Mm-hmm. It's not the coordinator, not the play calling, anything else. It's the offensive line. Mm-hmm. If they continue to struggle like they did near the end of last year, with the offensive line, then I worry most for Gibbs, honestly, even more than Goff. And that's why I'm actually lower on Gibbs than most people. I probably won't have any shares of Gibbs this year.
Okay. It's just let me just put this to the test right now for you, Ryan. You have the 101. You're taking Bijan Robinson over Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm assuming, right?
Correct.
Okay. Let's say you have the 102. Robinson goes 101. Gibbs, Chase, Nakua, Smith, and Jigbo. Chase. Okay.
Yep.
Let's say you have the 103. And Chase and Bijan Robinson are off the board. Are you taking Gibbs, Nakua, or Smith and Jigbo?
Puka.
Okay. Ferrell, we're going to continue this. This is great. You have the 104, Ryan Erickson. Robinson is gone. Chase is gone. Who'd you say you're taking at 103? Nakua?
Puka.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Nakua is gone. You have the 104. Gibbs is out there. Smith and Jigba, McCaffrey, Bowers. Who are you taking at 104?
And in that instance, I will take Gibbs.
Okay. All right.
Very good.
So there you go.
How often is that going to happen?
Not very. Not very.
That's
but
why I'm
this
not
is
going to end
great.
up with him.
But this is what's so great about it too. Like, there's a million different ways to start off your team in the FFPC. And Ryan, you've drafted a ton of teams, so you definitely know that as well. I want to get to a couple of emails here before we sign off. The first one is for you, Ryan. It's Tony in Centennial, Colorado. Hey, Ryan, how much do you think – this is an interesting one, and I'll be very curious to how you answer it. How much do you think Jerry Jeudy is being slept on since the best receivers Cleveland has besides him are both rookies? Good luck this year. That is Tony in Centennial, Colorado. Tony, we thank you for the email. Ryan, this is interesting because when you consider – I mean, obviously Fannon's there. Judkins is there, although historically Todd Monken running backs have not caught a ton of passes. So when you consider the pass catchers in Cleveland, whether they're catching balls from Shadur Sanders, Deshaun Watson, what have you, this is interesting because the top two pass catchers ostensibly should be Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston. Yet Jerry Jeudy is 2 years removed from just this massive fantasy season that helped a lot of people win a lot of money. Interesting to think about Jerry Jeudy in 2026, Ryan.
Well, I've heard some rumors that he might be on the trade block as well. I would say, first off, you need to tell me who's the quarterback. If you tell me it's Deshaun Watson, then I have a little interest in Jerry Jeudy. If you tell me it's one of the kids, then I would just as soon go with the younger wide receivers and, wait for Jeudy, see if he goes somewhere else. Fine. But like last year, he just did not have any. I don't know if I should say he didn't have any chemistry. He almost didn't have the will to play, it looked like at times. And he was not focused. And so if I'm getting that Jerry Jeudy playing with those quarterbacks again, no thanks. But getting Deshaun Watson back, that might reinvigorate Jeudy. And, if you're giving me him in the 16th, 17th round, yeah, I'll take a shot.
The other thing that, and I'll just bring up this from Adam Hahn on YouTube. We got that email from Tony in Centennial, Colorado. He says, Tony is sleeping on Isaiah Bond. And there was a report, Ryan, I can't remember if it's Mary Kay Cabot, somebody who is covering the Browns, said that the most targeted wide receiver in OTAs and minicamp was Isaiah Bond this year. Does he factor into your late round Big Gorilla picks at all this year, Isaiah Bond?
He doesn't, because I heard the same thing last year.
So you're right up.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
You most certainly did. You've been a wonderful guest. There's a lot of questions I would like to ask you. There's one that I ask everybody, and I'd like you to use players we have not discussed tonight. Sometimes people break that rule. Who do you love? Who do you have to have? Who's somebody that you want on every team? Who is somebody that you won't touch? And I thought it was Mr. Gibbs there for a minute. Balky was working up a question that said, which kicker will you take before Gibbs? But the way you answered that question, The way you answered that question proved to me that that you are not set in your ways or stubborn. That you can make a stance and and yes, legitimately a case could be made for all those players to go in front of Gibbs. But who you got to have and who are you dying to stay away from? And I've got 2 quick follow-up questions, Balky, after these questions are.
Sounds good.
So I'll start with the stay away from. I want to stay away from the Denver backfield.
Oh,
there's just too many heads there, and I have a feeling it's going to be a different head every week. I don't want the headache from all the heads.
Very good.
People that I am high on, but honestly, I have not been able to get in the Big Gorilla yet. Laporta.
Oh,
I really like Laporta with the offensive coordinator coming from Arizona. Definitely like game plan on the tight end.
Okay.
And the other one that I just got my first share of in the last draft is Mike Evans. I think Mike Evans is going too late right now for a guy that he's got to be the number 1 guy in San Francisco.
And Laporta is going to do well because everybody wants to impress Goff's wife. Now, the situation, you're in Miami. You have 2 receivers there, Tutu Atwell and Malik Washington. Are you drafting either one of them?
No.
And who is your offensive rookie of the year in the NFL this year?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a good one. Got to come strong.
It's got to be Love, right, Ryan? It's got to be Jeremiah Love.
I think it will be Love.
Who's the best rookie receiver? Who's the best rookie receiver in the NFL this year?
So I will take your lead a little bit there. I think you're leading me.
I'm leading you.
Probably, yeah.
I think that someone that a lot of people are sleeping on right now that's going to have a lot of playing time in Miami is Chris Bell.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now I have to stop this conversation here. Well, no, I don't want to stop it, but I want to because Ryan, here's my thing with Chris Bell, and you're a Miami guy, so you would know better than me. But I love the player. Ferrell, I know, is a big fan out of Louisville. He loves Chris Bell. But my whole thing is this guy tore his ACL last year, and I'm great with him in Dynasty, like a late first round pick, early second round pick. I'm all aboard Chris Bell. But I think about him in a redraft standpoint, and I'm wondering how much he's going to contribute to a Malik Willis, Jeff Hafley, Bobby Slowick offense in 2026. And that's my hang up. But Ryan, maybe you can sell me on Chris Bell in redraft leagues this year.
Well, I would sell you by literally saying Tutu Atwell and Malik Washington.
Okay, and tell me, Balky, and let's see if we can sell some more subscriptions for our beloved Darren Armani to the Fantasy Mojo. Tell us Bell, Washington, and Atwell, Big Gorilla ADP.
All right. So currently, again, this is over the last 5 days in the FFPC Big Gorilla as far as wide receivers going for Miami. So you're looking at the top one being drafted is Malik Washington, but not until wide receiver 74 at the 1802. Wow. You have Chris Bell going basically right after him, wide receiver 79 at the 1806. And then that's it. Nobody else. Not Tolbert, not Tutu Atwell, not Caleb Joseph. None of those guys are going in the Big Gorilla.
You're sitting on top of just tremendous upside there in Miami, Mr. Erickson, and you got tremendous upside as a player. We'd love to see you in Kentucky. Come on and get out of the heat. It's hot down there. It's hot in August. Come on up and see us. It's real cool and temperate here.
Well, remember, I'm a University of Miami guy, so I watched Chris Bell light up our defense last year, and he is a legitimate beast. Like he physically, he will have no problem translating to the NFL.
There are going to be a lot of dynasty rookie drafts that I have not had yet that I will be getting Chris Bell in. I'm very excited about that. Walk-off question for you tonight, Ryan. And maybe I buried the lead on this. There are a lot of people that are skittish about drafting players like Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison, and Michael Wilson based on Carson Beck could be taking over the Cardinals at some point later on this year when they realize they're out of it or whatever. Where do you stand on that? Not necessarily drafting Carson Beck, but drafting those other three players that I mentioned, McBride, Harrison, and Wilson, knowing that Beck could be throwing to him. You saw Beck up close this past year with him leading the Hurricanes to the college football playoff championship game here and coming, quite frankly, within a couple of inches of maybe beating Indiana this year. I want to let you weigh in on this.
Well, I would come back with what is Beck's biggest knock?
I would say his arm strength is the biggest thing that I know about.
Throwing to the other team. And guess what? That's not going to be an issue if I have Trey McBride or those guys. I'm not getting docked for him throwing the ball. We drove the ball 60 yards down the field. We got to the 20-yard line, then he threw a interception in the end zone. Well, I still get the 60 yards that he drove down the field. So I think production-wise, it's not going to be a problem if Beck gets in there.
Interesting. So you are not shying away from Wilson, Harrison, McBride. I mean, maybe you're shying away from it for different reasons. The Beck thing, that does not play into your...
No, it really doesn't. But honestly, out of those guys, McBride goes too early for me.
I'm with you.
Harrison's the only one I'm really interested in. I don't trust Michael Wilson. That flash at the end of last year, show it to me again. Then I'll worry about it.
Wilson's flash was when Harrison was hurt. I like his biggest flash. So, yeah, I have some concerns there. I have no concerns with what Ryan Erickson is going to be doing in the Big Gorilla this year and all his leagues. Ryan, this was a treat having you on tonight. This was so much fun. Thank you so much for hopping aboard tonight. We appreciate the insight. Be good. Enjoy drafting season from here on out. And most importantly, good luck winning that $1 million in the FFPC Big Gorilla, which you seem to be well on your way to establishing some pretty good teams and doing.
And Don Erickson will be in Kentucky. You guys can examine the family tree.
Your long-lost brother, Don Erickson, will be in Kentucky. Yes,
so come on.
Awesome.
Ryan, thank you so much, man. We'll talk with you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
That is Ryan Erickson, ladies and gentlemen, the 19-time FFPC League champ, joining us tonight on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Ferrell, the guests keep getting better and better. It was great talking with him tonight. Great insight on Carson Beck. Great insight on Jared Goff, Zach Charbonnet, the Bears backfield, the Commanders backfield, and so much more. This is why people tune in for this. This is why we do this show. I learned a lot tonight. I'm assuming you did too.
Yeah, but Balky, I just learned that you're the consummate media professional, and you raise everybody's game to a certain level. That it's the highlight of their year to come on the show and be with you. And I'm just so thrilled to be riding shotgun along for the ride.
Well, what's great about that is not only will you be riding shotgun with me going forward here, but we got the Pros versus Joes coming up next month. We have more live draft coverage coming up in a few weeks here on this show. So there's a lot to assimilate before everybody is sort of planting their flags and drafting players that they are going to try to win $1 million with the FFPC Main Event and the FFPC Big Gorilla. If anybody is looking to compete with me, they can do so at KFFSC.com. I think 3 drafts, probably 4 drafts now that this time.
You've got a lot of stuff going on, buddy.
Yeah. But I mean,
everybody love drafting.
Yeah. But we got KFFSC Main Events. There's 7 open teams in the preseason division for the main event. That is a 4-hour slow draft. You can hop in that. The 6-hour slow draft training camp, there's 9 spots left in that at KFFSC.com, which I will be in both of those. But the Best Ball Tournament Championship is a lot of fun with KFFSC. I'm in a couple of those right now. The George Atkinson, Jim Plunkett, and George Blanda are the final 3 divisions available there. So hop aboard there if you are looking for some fun there. And then, of course, the Draft Masters as well. Ferrell, KFFSC.com is where to go to play. Thank you so much for hopping aboard tonight. We will talk with you on Friday, my friend.
I'll see you on Friday, bud.
You got it. That is Ferrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football. I want to thank him, Ryan Erickson, the FFPC, Rob, Bryce, and, of course, each and every one of you. Now, next Wednesday, we will be back at 10 p.m. Eastern time with multi-time FFPC League champ Vic Davis. He will hop aboard to talk about his Big Gorilla drafts this year. That's going to be another fun episode. And then, of course, tomorrow night, watch Insider Access with me and Yahoo Fantasy's Scott Pianowski. 2 full hours of nothing but fantasy football. What's great about having Scott on this time of year, he is engrossed into fantasy baseball. He is dying to talk fantasy football, and he's going to get 2 hours to do it tomorrow night. So that's going to be a lot of fun right here on this channel, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Friday night, extra reps, 10 p.m. Eastern time, myself, Ferrell, and 13-time FFPC league winner, and a guy who drafted this past Friday night in the live on HSFF Big Gorilla draft. Don Talby is going to join us. That will air 10 p.m. Eastern time this Friday night. A lot of good insight on that as well. FFPC Big Gorilla right now, we have, I'm going to look this up right now just so I'm not giving you any false information, which I hate to do on this show. Midweek Mayhem is going on right now. So if you draft a team tonight or tomorrow, you will be entered into the drawing for 3 free FFPC Big Gorilla teams. We'll announce that in the Friday night or the Friday morning email. We have 11 teams available in the midnight draft. Everything else has been filled up tonight in the Big Gorilla, but we do have 11 teams in the midnight draft. That is going to be drafting in a half hour. So register for that right now, myffpc.com. You're also eligible for the 7 Bananas promo in there, which we're giving away more free FFPC teams there. FFPC Main Event, $1 million grand prize, $600 off your first, or I beg your pardon, each additional team after your first team there. FFPC Best Ball Tournament, $400K for the grand prize as opposed to $300K, which is what it was last year. FFPC Superflex Best Ball Tournament, $35 to enter. $100,000 grand prize there. Dynasty startups, Empire Dynasty startups available now. MyFFPC.com. They start at $100. They go up to $2,500. Take advantage of that. Player One, FFPC Player One, brand new thing that this industry has not had before. We're very excited to be the first to offer it. It is basically drafting immediately after you sign up against 11 smart CPU teams. We have different profiles in that as well. There is a Bryce. I don't know if there's a Bryce profile, but there's a Dave profile, an Alex profile, an Eric profile, Balky profile, Jake profile. So you're basically drafting against all these FFPC profiles. And if you can beat all of us, you're going to win serious cash or free FFPC main event entries, free FFPC Big Gorilla entries. A lot of fun there. Draft against the computer to win big this year. FFPC Chop Leagues also available. Just don't finish in last place in any given week this year, and you will win that league and turn that into cash or big tournament entries. MyFFPC.com is where to go. MyFFPC.com. Remember to like, subscribe, comment on this video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which will be Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern time, Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time with myself and Scott Pianowski. As our friend Vince Staffolino reminds us, you are officially over the hump right now. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. We'll talk with you again tomorrow night, 7 p.m. on FFPC Insider Access.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
I know most of the time I always say too, with the Big Gorilla draft, I mean, we have one starting in a half hour or whatever, but there are other teams that we have going on. The Baby Gorilla, the FFPC Best Ball Tournament, and the FFPC Superflex Best Ball Tournament We have a draft starting in 32 minutes right now with just 5 teams left. So if you want to enter for $35 and take your shot at a $100,000 grand prize, this would be the perfect time to do it. myffpc.com, myffpc.com. I'll talk with you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern with Scott Pianowski from Yahoo Fantasy. And then I'll talk with you again with Ferrell Elliott and, of course, Don Talby, the 13-time FFPC League winner, live on HSFF Hour Extra Reps, 10 p.m. Eastern Time this Friday. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll talk with you again very, very soon.